Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Psychology and Spirituality, a bridge to a better life. This is a discussion that I'm so excited to be your host today. My name is Marcia Trajano, and with me is my co-host, Jussara Korngold. Jussara, I just want to go ahead and introduce you, okay? Jussara is the Secretary General of the International Spiritist Council. She's the former president and current vice president of the United States Spiritist Federation. I want to thank you, all of you who are here listening to us. Today's episode of our series of discussions, Psychology and Spirituality, A Bridge to a Better Life, is brought to you by our friends at Mansão do Caminho, that is the social arm of the Spirit Center Caminho da Redenção in Salvador, Brazil. Mansão do Caminho was founded 70 years ago in 1952 by the speaker and amazing person, Divaldo Franco, and his cousin, Nilson de Souza Pereira. But if you're interested in learning more about this amazing organization, please visit mansãodocaminho.com.br. The Psychology and Spirituality program is also sponsored by AMI Brazil, United States Spiritist Federation, TV Mansão do Caminho, and the International Spiritist Council. Make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't done so already. And if you'd like to check out any other channels, please check us out at spiritist.us. But got to go back to you, Jussara. Thank you so much for being here. And it is so good to be here today with you to discuss a topic, right? Hindrance to positivity. If you are interested to know more about the subject, I highly recommend you two books written by Joanna de Angelis. They are Alert and Integral Human Being. Jussara, let's go ahead and get started from the beginning, okay? When we talk about hindrance, which if I think about what is hindrance? Well, anything that is an obstacle, right? So a hindrance to a positive outlook in life. We're confronted with the idea of apathy. What I mean by that is when you and I, or anyone out there who's listening to us, may be in a state of mind that you just lost any interest in life. When that's you lose that pizzazz, that enthusiasm, or as the French say, the joie de vivre. With that loss of interest, I believe we lose something else, right? Which is the loss of or interest in awareness of others, of ourselves. We're not concerned any longer. It's almost like we're losing ourselves in the process. So, Jussara, can you talk a little bit maybe about why do you think apathy or that indifference to life is an obstacle for you to live a good life? What do you think?
Okay, but first, let me say hi to you, Marcia. Hello, everyone that is connecting with us. We are very happy with this opportunity of, having this program of psychology and spirituality, and I think we all have a lot to gain from it. We are all looking for a better way of living, right? And this topic that you mentioned that we find in the books of Joanna de Angelis, it's so important for us today because everyone is feeling so much pressure, right? I mean, sometimes it seems that we are struggling and that life is requiring so much from us. And at the same time, one of the points when we think about the hindrances to positivity is when we kind of start not believing in our possibilities, right?
Correct.
Because it seems that regardless of the efforts that we are doing. Nothing really works the way we would like to be seeing happening in our lives.
Mhm.
And the thing is, when we start having this kind of relationship with life, you know,
Yeah.
it's this is going to be very conducive to us not even thinking about trying anymore.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, when we think, why should I keep, you know, doing that? I don't see things happening coming in my way, without realizing that we are sabotaging our lives, ourselves in the process,
Hmm. Hmm.
because the negativity of my thoughts are going to represent a tremendous impact, because I will even lack energy to
Yes.
start doing something. Don't you say so? I mean, don't you think
Yeah,
so?
and if I think about it, right, we talk about the loss of interest. I can use the word possess, right? You lose that. Ugh, what makes you you? You just breathing, but you're not living. So that point counterpoint of apathy, and we think as a hindrance to a positive life, we're actually saying hindrance to life, right? To life, to living life, because you just start to remove yourself. You're not there. And I keep thinking, if I go back to the term, um, the opposite of somebody who's apathetic is somebody who's actually passionate, right? And in that passion, you can go into a difficult component, which is, oh, violent, aggressive. But you can also have something very interesting, which is and this is me, Jussara. Okay. It's impulsive, right? There is something coming on, and like, boom, it's that impulsive response, and having point counterpoint, which I love, by the way. When we study, we read the books by Joanna de Angelis, she always brings that, right? Point counterpoint. So point, apathy, bad. Counterpoint, too much passion, also bad. And we have to think, if you don't stop to take stock at things, it may lead to some crazy consequence, don't you think? And before I get
Perhaps.
back to you, yeah, so let me just tell you a little something very personal. You and I live in the US, but both of us were born in Brazil. Well, Brazilians have that reputation of being too passionate. That's how I've been seen living in this country for the majority of my life, and I understand that as maybe a caricature of a people, which we don't want to go back, but I learn that one or the other is really not good. So learning to balance that impulsive nature to a more controlled one, but control does not mean indifference. Can we talk a little bit more about it, Josara? What are your thoughts?
Yes, that's that's quite interesting. But before we go to that, in
Yeah,
one of the comments that you mentioned about, you know,
sure.
the interest, the, you know, life is action, and how we should be
Hmm.
really, you know, trying and doing things. An example came to my mind. I was thinking about Thomas Edison. I
Uh-huh.
mean, and when you talk, when you said about being passionate about something, so we can say that Thomas Edison was passionate about what he was doing. He didn't
Yeah.
know what the result, the outcome would be,
Yeah.
but he kept on trying, even
Mhm.
with so many failures, according to how he described it, right? He didn't
Yes.
reach the result he was expecting so many times. And when people would go to him and trying to say, why are you still keep on doing that? Why do you have to go through this way? So if you have a passion, I mean, is exactly in this sense, not in an imbalanced way, as you
Hmm.
said. but
Hmm.
it is in the sense of, this is what you want to pursue, and you have something, and there is something in your gut that tells you that,
Correct.
I, I'm
Hmm.
in the right track, and we have to become change makers, right?
Yes.
Everyone that has been a change maker is exactly because of that, because they did not surrender to
Yeah.
this apathy of saying, I cannot do, I will give up. And this is what we are talking about, and how this can impact our mindset, since we are talking about psychology here as well.
Yeah. Hmm.
How much, like I said in the beginning, we can sabotage ourselves, because
Hmm.
it's the reverse of the positive thinking. It's
Hmm.
me thinking I cannot do everything that I try, it doesn't work. It's better if
Hmm.
I give up. It's better if I just live, like, a very boring kind of life, very
Hmm.
well structured, but here in a low level, not uh, giving yourself to any kind of adventure, so to say. And
Yeah.
this is, as Joanna de Angelis tells in this book,
Yeah.
Alert, is what I think is very important, because she says, life is action. Action
Yes.
is movement to lead us
Yes.
to goodness, to progress. So if I stay just, in the state of contentment,
Yeah.
I will never reach this really state of happiness that we can achieve
Hmm.
here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
uh,
And when you can think about it, I love what you say. Yeah.
when
I
people
love it. Right. So we talked about apathy and we talked about combating this negativity that comes from, I don't know, this sense of being aloof, to be distanced and to not to be concerned with yourselves or anything. You just breathe, but you don't really live, right? You sustain life as in a vegetative state, if you will, because you're not working with life. And love what you said, right? Life is action, action is movement. What are we doing? What are our efforts? What are we striving? What are goals, our dreams? And this is great when we talk about it, because as we think in terms of our our material lives, and I want to go back to that point counterpoint, right? We live here in the West, specifically in the US, as what? As a capitalist, individualistic society, consumer society, a lot of competition. For us to survive, we need to have that zest for life. This is not an apology for egocentric or selfish behavior by any means, but it is the environment. This is the context by which we live today. And I can say for the past 2 3 years, when we talk about the pandemics, that COVID-19 that came to us and it changed everything that we've done and how we dealt with life. It led us in a very interesting way to go back to a sense of self, to understand what is it I want to life. Uh, that that pause, that inner discovery does not mean you're apathetic. And I think that's what maybe we can talk about. Life is action. Life requires effort, right? Life requires you to challenge, to confront maybe your own fears, what you haven't done before. If you do that in a way that means that you have to go through this inner journey to understand, what do I really want, it means that you're concerned, that you want, that you desire to grow. I don't know. Those are my thoughts when we think in terms of what is life.
it's very important what you're saying, and again emphasizing the change makers, because I think it's
Mhm.
important for us to highlight this here.
Mhm.
um, all the progress that we are having doesn't necessarily is accompanied accompanied by any kind of ethical, moral,
Mhm.
spiritual development. And when we are in this transition, like you say, we start this inner search,
Mhm.
look around, and the majority that surrounds you not necessarily are
Mhm.
searching for the same uh,
Yeah.
path that you are.
Yeah.
So it becomes easy sometimes for us just to collect ourselves and start like I was saying before, avoiding more social contacts, or being very careful. And at the same time, you don't feel that eagerness like many
Yeah.
people do for this so competitive market world that we live now.
Mhm.
And it's not necessarily that you don't want to do anything about
Yeah.
it, or pursue this avenue, more spiritual, more understanding about things. But it seems a very lonely path,
Yes.
and it's not difficult for people who begin to go through this journey. And this is why,
Mhm.
this self-discovery, and the reason that we are doing all those episodes that we hope you are going to be following with us, about psychology and
Mhm.
spirituality, uh, um, as a bridge to a better life,
Mhm.
because we cannot go through this journey without thinking about ourselves. And
Yeah.
sometimes, although we are talking here about the negative aspect of this,
Mhm.
collecting yourself, or of becoming indifferent, or being,
Mhm.
if you asked me, is there a
Yeah.
single word that could perhaps summarize what
Mhm.
being apathetic means, I would say the word would be whatever. You know, we use the expression a lot, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this is a typical answer from a
Mhm.
person that is more in the state of numbness. You say, what
Yeah.
do you want to eat?
Yeah.
Whatever. You want to go
Yeah.
out? Whatever.
Mhm.
What do you think about the whatever, Marcia?
It is. It is, right? And I think it's important perhaps for us to really take stock of it, right? I come back with points and counterpoints. So it's important for us not to to take to take stock at what we're talking about in the nuanced impacts of apathy versus too much aggression. But then when we talk about, I love it, the whatever. What is it that whatever is? I don't care. I just don't care, which to me leads to that question of selfishness. It's when you're in this such a self-centered view of yourself in the world that you don't care. You don't care about the pain that somebody else is going through. You don't care about I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here. The environment, you just don't care. And the disastrous consequences when you get into that way of living that is so apathetic is what? Depression, right, Jussara?
Mhm.
It's being slaved, being paralyzed to that whatever attitude. And I think it's important for us to recognize maybe we have all been there. What can we do to change that? Is there a tip that we can talk about it? Perhaps how can we get out of this whatever, right?
I think this is a journey that probably
Mhm.
all of us here, including the two of us, are dealing
Mhm.
with as well in one way or another,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
to some it will be more aggravated than to others. But I think in several occasions of our life, we will have this questioning about, our path, our journey. Am I doing the right stuff? Isn't better if I just, accommodate and not have great dreams, or not, just going Orson Welles 1984, right? Living in this world of machines, everyone behaves the same. And sometimes because we are doing that, and we still live in an old moral values world, right? And we want to break from that. It's not easy, this journey. And when we start ignoring even ourselves and our our desires, in the sense, it starts leading us to this path of whatever. It doesn't matter what I do, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to change the world, right? I was thinking about a little story that I heard about the famous in Median Chico Xavier, when a journalist came to him, and he was talking, I think, about what is in the importance of hygiene. If and he said, have you taken a bath today? And everyone doing that. We are talking about hygiene. And remember that story about the starfish, right? There is a man walking along the beach, and he's collecting starfish and throwing it back to the sea. And then someone looks at it and say, "Look, this is a big bitch. Well, you're not going to be able to save them all." And he said, "Well, but I made a difference for this one." So now,
exactly,
difference to ourselves. And when you talk about selfishness, this is a huge problem, because in order to protect to what we think is protecting us, if I become oblivious about what is happening in the world, because I want to protect myself.
Yes.
I'm not allowing myself to grow, because we are here living, in a net. Whether we understand that or not, we are all connected.
Yes.
And from the moment I try to isolate myself and just think for myself and about my own interests, even if I put my expectations to a very low level, I'm kind of destroying my possibilities. And this is going to lead me to the depressive stage that becomes, as first as apathy, as we were talking before, living that life of routine, and living that with a few, going out, partying here or there, a few relationships. I'm okay with life, and not optimizing your possibilities.
Can I add a little component, Jussara? So you and I, right? You and I believe in that premise that we are immortal souls, and that changes everything, right? When you know that that there's life after life after life, when we put the concept of spirituality into what life is, then it changes a little bit, because I think you brought up something very, very important, if you don't mind me bringing it up again, Jussara, is the fact that apathy can be born out of living a life that is routine, right? So I wake up, I take a shower. Speaking of hygiene, take a shower, go to my office, my work, whatever that my source of income is. I come back home, I go to sleep, and rinse and repeat, right? We do that over and over again, and we lose our thread, why are we doing this? Isn't it better to just, again, to go back to the whatever, right? Uh, not think about it anymore, not worry, because it's,
Groundhog, Groundhog Day, right?
yeah, yes. It,
What
but
is it called?
we,
I forgot. Ground.
yeah, the Groundhog Day, yeah. So so the sense of repeating ourselves, which can lead to that indifference of life and negativity, etc. Once you put the lens of immortality or growth as immortal souls, then it changes everything. At least in my mind, it does change, because now we come to terms with not so much what or how we're doing, but why? Why am I here? Why am I living? Why? What is the context by which you and I and all of you who is listening to this discussion here today, it changes, but it's unique. But it changes. It's very individualistic for each and everyone's journey. So the question then becomes, the reason why we're here is indeed to reach a state of happiness, right?
It's
Yeah, yeah.
I think you gave a perfect answer for,
Mm-hmm,
what would be one of the hindrances for our
mm-hmm,
positivity, in this case also reaching a state
mm-hmm.
of happiness, which is having a more materialistic view of
Yes.
ourselves.
Mm-hmm,
So if I think it's just here and now, all right, I have to take the best out of life in this minute, right?
mm-hmm,
Uh, and as we see
mm-hmm,
happening all around, life is not easy, right? Everyone is
mm-hmm,
carrying a burden,
mm-hmm,
and uh, and we start questioning why we are doing that, like you said,
mm-hmm,
and, and not having a more spiritual approach to life,
mm-hmm,
and thinking or feeling yourself impotent
mm-hmm,
to solve this dilemma, right?
mm-hmm.
Uh, we are going to do like, the oyster. I'm going to close myself and,
Correct. Yeah.
stay there. I don't want to take an adventure. But by saying that, and also with all the pressures that we have in the world,
Mm-hmm,
so we think, what is the point? Wake up,
mm-hmm.
work, and repeat, rinse and repeat, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
All
It's,
the time,
yeah.
right? It's
Mm-hmm,
it becomes very oppressive as well, and this
mm-hmm,
competitiveness that we have in the world. I was thinking about one phrase from Freud that I like very
mm-hmm,
much, that when he says that we are made of flesh, but we must live as if we were of iron. So this is not what we're trying to say
yeah.
here. Not
Mm-hmm,
just you know uh, putting a persona
mm-hmm,
up and going and show ourselves the way we expect the world is going to accept us.
mm-hmm.
Not anymore. Is me somehow believing in myself and believing in those premises,
Yeah,
bringing something different to the world. So
yeah.
bringing something different to that equation. Have you thought about this possibility?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So maybe
So
this is
let's,
just, yeah,
yeah,
go
sorry
ahead.
to interrupt. No, I was going to say, let's wrap it up, because I want to ask you something completely different,
Okay,
but
go.
related. Okay. So let's wrap it up. So what we talked about, the hindrances to living in the moment, or having a mindful life, as many people would call it, is perhaps that materialistic view of ourselves. And if I heard you correctly, Jussara, you talked about we're not denying the fact that we have our pain points, we have our burden, right? Each in every one of us. All those, what is it, 8 billion plus people living today in this planet, we are all carrying some source of pain, some challenge, and it's something that we cannot deny. But what we're talking about here is the decision to either the oyster, right? Closing oneself because life is that endless, repetitive routine of waking up, working, going back to sleep, waking up again, which is one approach. And the other approach is even beyond that, is whatever. I don't care. I'm going to sustain life from a very self centered way of looking, however that means, so that I can get to the end of my days in a way that is less um, difficult. We do know that as immortal souls that we are here to learn, to grow, to be happy, to learn about ourselves, to understand the interconnectedness, right, Jussara? You mentioned that we this is we're so connected. It's amazing. We live in this ecosystem called life, right? The planet Earth, this life that we're living, and carrying, right? Being interested really means that we are, I can call it, this is my term here, we are on hyperdrive, right? We are accelerating our growth because every time I care about you, I am exercising empathy, and I am leaving the world of a completely self-centered life into a life of growth and growing together and serving the other, loving the other as the result. So love is life, right? Life is love, love is life. So I think it's very important for us to understand life does not mean easy peasy, stay home, do nothing. Life is action, right? It is challenging. It requires you to get up and go and solve. I love what you said before, Jussara, that as change makers, we need to look in the life with different eyes, right? Different set of perspective. How can I be a change maker? How can I make this, that whatever this is, better than what it was before I came to being?
I
Any
have one
final
thing.
thought? Yeah, yeah.
I would like to add that
Mm,
I don't know exactly whether this is true or not.
mm,
Um, many years ago, I heard one story about Stephen Hawking, the physicist,
yeah.
that he was diagnosed with his health problem. He was very young,
Mm,
and he was not giving an optimistic outcome, or
yeah.
uh, diagnosis. Probably he would last about 2 years or so.
Yeah.
And the story that I read, that I haven't checked, but in any case, it serves to illustrate us what we are talking about here in terms of, us, um, even when struggling, when we give us ourselves to others and we don't think just about ourselves, become this self-centered person. and
Mm,
and the story goes that he decided, because at that point he was already a brilliant student, already
yeah.
attending university, to
Mm,
dedicate his life to others. He said, well, now I have two options. I
mm,
can He contemplated a suicide,
uh-huh.
or said, well, if I'm going to have just this few years, I'm going to make a difference in the life of
Oh,
others
love it. Yeah.
few years that I have.
Yeah.
And then these few years became decades. And so, like I said, I don't know, but exactly if this is true or not. But I remember that when I read it, seemed to be from a respectable source, and
Mhm.
this story always inspired me because
Yes.
I'm sure there are so many people in this way. I mean, even when we think about Mother Teresa, okay, I just have
Mhm.
one bread, I don't have many to distribute, but I will share what I have. It's a
Yes.
different view of life. And also remembering a phrase from Chico Xavier's when he said, when life is too hard, you're too sad, go and take care of the sadness of others, and your
Yeah.
sadness are going to be becoming less important. I mean, it's not that they are not going to be there, but there are things that we can do that will bring to us. And I think the French know what they do, what they say, joie de vivre. I mean, some languages that they just have the perfect word to describe,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
joy of living, and look at every day as a new opportunity. Okay, today, what do I have in my schedule? Same thing.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I'm going to take a different approach. I'm going to enjoy being able to still be capable of doing those things because, age comes, uh,
Yes. Yes.
problems happen. And so routine sometimes is very good. Like we have this saying, right? No news is good news, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah, so that's what I wanted
I
to
I
say.
love it. And because I want to spend a little bit more time on a similar topic, if you don't mind. But love what you said, right? As Chico Xavier, as a very famous mention, as you mentioned, medium from Brazil, when he talks about it, get out of yourself. Don't be that oyster that closes on yourself. I know, we know you're suffering, but just look at the others who are suffering, and just it's a magic thing, right? Once you change that perspective, your pain becomes lesser than what was before. And you start to heal yourself. You become able to live that better life just by choosing a different optics. But let's go ahead and, speaking of changing the optics, let's talk about something completely different but so similar, because it's something that we live with every day. So, Jussara, I'm going to talk about, I don't know if you can see this little thing here. All right. This is an example, a very small example of how our lives have changed. I'm talking about collectively speaking, have changed. I would say have changed in the past 2 years, have changed the past 10 years, and the curve, right, about 100 years, 150 years ago to what we have now, we are exponentially more dependent on technology. What is the impact of that intertwining of our lives with technology? And some examples, just so we can start thinking, can be artificial intelligence, right? It can be the omnipresence of uh, mobile devices. Wherever you go, you take with you, even to bed, even to places that you shouldn't take it, you there goes with you. And that omnipresence of that technology, that internet, and the connectivity, right? We talked about IoT, right? Internet of Things, where things talk to each other. Cars drive themselves and they know how to react before you even react, so on and so forth. This is very powerful stuff that is at our fingertips. How has that impacted our lives? Do you want to take a stab at talking about it?
Yeah, sure, Marcia. I was thinking that everything depends on how we approach it.
Okay.
Um, and so let's talk about the, our mobile
Yeah,
devices.
yeah, yeah.
just as one example of this technological advancement. It's fantastic. It's wonderful,
Mhm.
and but sometimes it can be too overwhelming. We
Mhm.
have to remember that a couple centuries before, a regular person, an ordinary person, would have very little knowledge of things, mostly about the village they
Mhm.
belong to, and it says one of the things that say that today, if you read one newspaper, you read
Mhm.
more than a human being from not so many centuries ago
Mhm.
exposed their entire life.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we have to understand that this all these technological advancements, they come to serve us, to make our lives better.
Mhm.
So it's to make our lives better and not to make us addict to them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to say sometimes is an addiction, right? We go to places. I remember sometimes at the doctor and I'm there talking to the receptionist, and then the phone rings and she has to answer the phone. And sometimes I feel like saying, do you want me to call you? To give me priority because I'm here in person,
Yes.
and the other person is not. Or how sometimes you go to have a good time and having dinner with friends, and the friends are just checking their phones, and
Mhm.
so it's a matter of having balance. Another setback that I think and it has everything to do with what we are talking about here is, like I said at the beginning, depend on how I look at it, how I
Mhm.
understand, because sometimes we see people saying, "Oh, when I go to, you know, um, to Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, it seems that
Mhm.
everyone else is living the life, and just my life is miserable."
Yes.
So
Yes.
now I'm going to look in a different way. I mean, I don't want to
Mhm.
share sadness. The world do not want to know about my sadness because
Yeah.
everyone, is having a lot on their own. But when I look at this, instead of feeling envious and
Mhm.
saying my life is boring, it seems that only those people are having the best time of my life, and this is what
Mhm.
it leads me to apathy, to depression, to just stay in my
Mhm.
shell. I'm going to
Mhm.
say, well, good for them that they are having a break
Mhm.
in their lives. It's going to happen to me as well. This is taking a positive attitude, right?
Mhm.
And there are some people that like to share everything, and then
Mhm.
so I'm never going to criticize progress. I
Mhm.
think progress is here as a blessing, a gift from God, and we just have to understand how to balance that. How much
Mhm.
is really working to become something good for us, and how much I'm becoming a slave of technology,
Yes. Yes.
right?
So the
So
sense of imprisonment, right, Jussara? And I think this topic goes well with this whole discussion because it's all about hindrance to living a positive life, right? To positivity. And anything can become that hindrance, but we need to check us ourselves, to check us in terms of how do I show up, right? Josada mentioned it's how I see things. Um, in terms of technology, completely agree with you. We often, right? We often make jokes of the times that we wanted to kill a fax machine back in the day, or a printer still back in the day, right? Like, work, it doesn't work. And we get all crazy when technology fails us. Technology is a tool to make our lives better. So that position that brings to us is to see how is it? How is it making our lives better, right?
Mhm.
Access to um, information, to data points. Love when you said, I'm talking about Steve Hawkins, and I listened or read the story from a reputable source. I did not check it, so listen to me with a grain of salt. I love it because that too is how do I see things? How do I access information? How do I filter it from what does it mean to me? Is it even verifiable or truthful or even important to me to understand that piece of information? But access to information, access to technology, all of it is because we deserve, this is my opinion, we deserve a better life. And deserving a better life puts us back, Jussara. And I think we have less than 5 minutes, so let's go ahead and wrap it up. Um, Deserving a better life goes back to the promise from our Creator, right? That promise of love, of mercy, of caring, of a life that, if you think again, to ask ourselves, why am I here? And when the burden is too much, reference to Steve Hawkins, right, with a terrible disease. Do you want to end this life or do you want to make this life a life of serving? And those are the decisions that we have to make. But to me, I end our discussion today, Jussara, with this call to action to all of us. Let us look at our thought processes, look at our filters, look at the way we react to things, to crisis, to pain points, to joy, and let us see how are we choosing to live a life of positivity. Back at you, Jussara.
Yeah, and one thing that I was thinking, I don't even want to check if the story is true or not because it inspired me for
Right.
so many years. And so, but yeah, because I'm sure there is someone in the world that took that decision. I mean, there are so many thinking about Albert Schweitzer, right? I mean, he was not you, but he could have had you know, a very famous life, and he
Mhm.
decided to dedicate to those that in need as well. But one thing for us to think about as a way also to to reach this better life, you know, these little devices, like we said, they are here to help us,
Mhm.
but they are not here to help us hide ourselves, because many times, because we don't want to face who we are, we don't want to be with our own thoughts, with
Mhm.
our own selves, we start looking at the life of others. It's time, and this is you know, the our goal here as well is to call a call to action. So
Mhm.
we start not being afraid of analyzing ourselves, seeing what your feelings are,
Mhm.
and observing if this is what you allowing yourself to become, you know, this apathetic person living in the state of whatever.
Mhm.
Because when we pay attention at ourselves, we are going to be capable to change or to
Yeah.
find ways and to find meaning to change us. So all this psychology and spirituality means exactly that, a bridge to a better life. So I hope you join us in our next episode. Thank you so
Yes.
much, Marcia. I was going to say Marcia, and we will see you back soon.
Yes. So, yes. So I want to say thank you, Jussara. We have come to an end. Wonderful talking to you today. We discussed today hindrances to positivity. We have lots of topics coming up. Among others, we have the pursuit of reality, consciousness in life, balance, health, peace. how to coexist religion, religiosity, anger, faith. There is so much for us to talk. I hope you come back to us to the next week when we're going to be talking more about topics found in the works of Joanna de Angelis that discuss psychology and spirituality. Please, please take a moment to tell your friends about this talk or come back and send us your questions. Thank you so very much.